So to get started, back in August, we sent out a survey to the 4A's communications agency teams to see if we could get a better understanding of what people's communications and new business teams actually look like. Mostly because I'm nosy and I'm a team of one, and so I just wanted to see like how many other teams of one out there are there in the world, and how many have like 7+, and it turns out there's a lot of agencies with 7+ people. So 52 of you all filled it out, so appreciate everybody who took the time to fill it out. We got a really great kind of swath of participation with some holding companies. Oh, that math doesn't check. 73.1 and 73.1. Send note to designers. All right, great. So yeah, holding company and independent agencies have been represented extensively. All right, so on the new business side of the house, only 33% of respondents had an agency CMO. And so I thought that that was really interesting because that's just the one person who's in charge of the agency's brand, and that means that this list of other people also have other jobs that are not just new business. And that chart also, that one all the way on the left should be 0. So about 8 of you have no dedicated new business person, that they have other pieces of job responsibilities that don't necessarily only do new business. On the comms side, most people do not have a fully dedicated comms person. Again, shared responsibilities, shared priorities, with quite a lot of, there's some culture and communications, someone on business development. That's a lot of different priorities that communications is also one of. So I thought that that was a really interesting thing. And also, like, you teams with 7, get it. Also, I wanted to know a little bit more about how the agency's social media channels come together. And so at my agency, it's me and a cross-functional team of a client-facing person and a creative who creates the beautiful work. And so it kind of looks like that seems to be the trend across everybody that responded, with most coming from the creative department. Again, that means they have a shared responsibility with this content, and it isn't just something that's going to be coming straight with a comms point of view and a comms success metric. Okay, so what works best about your new business process? And I think that the biggest things from here that I took away are the leaning in with the people, but not always being the same people. And tracking time so that we don't burn out some people or get the same recycled ideas because they've been on every pitch moving forward, or that we've had. Making sure that the person who's in the room has the authority to make decisions. Nothing better than having to bring a really great idea to somebody who's about to shut it down, even though you've gone quite far down the path. What's not working about your new business process is resources, which I think will surprise no one in this room. I've heard rumors of a dedicated resource, and I'd like to speak with anybody who has one because it sounds amazing. And also understanding kind of who owns what relationships, who's reaching out to search consultants, who's building those relationships, where does that responsibility live? And then what would be more helpful for your job? So this was actually a question that was asked to me by a leader when I was really junior at Starcom. And at the time, I thought that it actually showed like how out of touch he was with like what we were doing and like how our team runs. And it turns out like that's how that goes. But it actually kind of made me think a little bit more critically about what I actually needed. So do I always need more salary? Yes. But I actually just need another set of hands because I'm doing all this busy work and I need to be in more important meetings and use the other part of my brain. And so for some people, it is more money on the budget side. You need to have money to do things, to create content that works. Maybe we'll do mailers again. Like, these are opportunities that you can try if you have some money. So with that, I will now transition to my lovely panel here. So I want to start with Courtney. Doing new business for Martin, when you look at this information and kind of how teams are structured, how do you know how to put together the right combination of people for new business, and then where do you come in with your comms partners? who are amazing.
So Martin is in a really great position because a few years ago, actually, we knew the potential of our brand, and we really put a stake in our mission of we fight invisibility, and we saw the impact of having a clear point of view out in the world. And we knew that if we were going to challenge our clients and brands to have a point of view, we had to have a point of view as well. And that point of view came with an investment in our team. And so we actually have a Martin brand team that houses our business development team. My partner in crime, Catherine, who's sitting right there, leads all of our brand comms. And even at the executive level, having a dedicated chief brand officer so that we could fight for the investment that's needed in our team within the agency walls. And so when it comes to structuring teams and comes to structuring resources, I have a team of 3 on my business development team, and on our brand comms team, it's a team of 4. So we are blessed to have dedicated people who have invested in our brand, but that decision was made years ago when we saw the potential of the brand. So I just really want to encourage everybody that if you are going to challenge your clients and your brands to have that same investment in themselves and their point of view and the brand and the impact they want to have in the world, you have to give that back to your agencies and your comms people and your new business people, because we can't do our job without it.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously budgets, and it costs money to hire a good designer.
Yeah.
It costs money to hire a good writer, and budgets are tighter. And so I'm curious as how a system that was set up a couple years ago, it's hard to get things restarted. But asking for what you need to be successful. You want to be the most awarded agency? How big is your awards team? Mm-hmm. You don't have one? How is that possible?
100%.
So how would you suggest, are there priorities? How would you suggest to bring these opportunities to your leadership to say, like, this is where you got to spend some money to make some money?
Yeah, one of our designers actually told me, because I think a lot of people used to go to them and they're like, you guys are magicians. And they were like, stop calling us magicians. Because I think there was a slide earlier today that showed everybody only sees the work at the top, but then nobody sees like the duck waddling at the bottom. And those are our teams. And I feel like when it gets simplified to, oh, these people are just magicians, it actually negates all of the hard work that goes into those roles. We have phenomenal designers, phenomenal comms people, phenomenal biz dev people who everybody is just focused on the output of that, but nobody ever sees the input. And all of us do. All of us are there those late nights with the designers, with the studio, with the writers. Some of us are the designers, some of us are the writers. And we're having all these hybrid roles that nobody gets to see. So a big part of it is just opening executives' eyes to the work that goes into it and speaking up and just humanizing these roles. Because it really does take dedicated people, especially, I see a movement forward with social. I just remember back in the day, they're like, oh, just throw the intern on social, and it's great. And that is the most disrespectful thing to hear, because there's so much that goes into all of these different roles and the distinct roles, and they take more than one person. And so, again, just humanizing the investments that are needed and showing that, yes, we can have great success and great output, but if our people are burnt out at the end of the day, they're going to leave. We're going to have nobody to help fuel this engine. And so really putting that perspective back in executive eyes.
It can be really challenging when you work in-house to say to somebody, that isn't a positioning statement. That is just a statement. Simone, as somebody who works with agencies and to help them kind of understand themselves and be that outside voice to say maybe what you can't tell your family member, but like the in-laws can say to you, how do you help agencies kind of figure out what are those pieces to then encourage growth on the things that you actually stand for and not just like,
Yeah, I mean, I would say that a lot of agencies try to find the white space and what makes them different in the universe of agencies. And that's just a failed proposition. It's a failed exercise. There is very little white space. What is the true ownable space is what makes you unique. And to your point, it's so hard to find that in yourself, right? So what we do is we go in, we ask hard questions, right? Like, what is the DNA of the agency? What is the client experience when you're working on a project with a client? What would the world lose if you went away tomorrow? And so really diving deep into the agency DNA is really key, and making you feel more like yourself than you did before is the winning proposition. Not making yourself different, because clients don't buy different. They buy something unique and ownable and you.
Nice. In my freelance days, I took a lot of meetings with agencies who were the world's best kept secret. Everyone calls themselves the best kept secret. And I'm wondering, Matt, how do you educate yourself? How does your team work to educate themselves on what agencies are up to. Do you read the newsletters that we send you? Because we put
The
a lot of time
newsletters,
into
let's do the
those.
newsletters first. 1 a quarter is plenty, okay? And the other thing I've said to probably some of you, if not all of you, it is not news that an ad agency made ads, okay? It would be more interesting if you said, we have news, we are no longer making ads, okay? So news has to qualify as new people, new clients, new capabilities, new geographies, but it is not news that a long-standing client has made a new piece of advertising with you. The other thing I wanted to say to kind of try to wake myself up and be provocative at the end of the day is that as I look around the room, every single agency in the room is in a review right now that you don't know about. And I'm not just guessing, I'm actually know that in my case, you're probably about half of you are. And what I mean by that is that comms and the website are a prelude to every review ever undertaken by every marketer across all categories. So of that I'm positive. So there is a meeting that takes place between agencies 22 and 10 that says, how are we getting from 22 that we did secondary research on to the 10 that we're going to RFI? And so my confidence is that this room is filled with people who are, whether they know it or not, are in reviews right now based on secondary information in your website. So some of you, that should put the fear of God into you, and some of you should feel really good about that. Everybody who has a website that doesn't have a person's name on it for me to reach out to, you should be nervous, okay? You should be very nervous. Those people are the easiest ones. They're the second easiest agency to cut off of a new business list. The first being is the people who address their email to me as Ryan, because that means they didn't even look me up on LinkedIn, so ding, they can go out. That one's an easy one to lose. So you're in a review, and the comms matter, and the website matters. If you're not using it, you should look at Perplexity as an AI platform. It's probably the best for the kinds of way we use it. Perplexity is the only platform that actually annotates where the information came from, so that you actually have a bibliography of sorts of what you're reading. So what do? We get hired to do a market survey, and the market survey has got geography, it's got a whole bunch of characteristics to it. And then we start doing secondary research on your website, what can we learn, and about all the comms that are in the marketplace for the last 24 months. All that is happening right now to all of you, all right? And then there'll be a discussion about what those findings are, and then a subset of that group will get an RFI.
So they're always watching.
They're always watching. And they're always watching when you're silly, and they're always watching when you're serious, but they're always watching.
Nice. Well, there are quite a few of us agencies out in this world. The oversupply is quite large.
Yeah, I mean,
and very few brands are out there left for us to take. So I think one of the most interesting things I've heard in the last couple of years is, oh yeah, we can do that. Oh yeah, CRM? Yeah, we do that. Events? Do that too. How do we stand out for the things that we do, knowing that we have capabilities to do these other things? It's when you have a position, when you have a mission, when you have values, there's like a lot of content that we put out there. And so I'm just wondering what are the things that make all that content helpful for you? Because I think part of it is we're just creating it because we think that's what it will be helpful. Mm-hmm. Is that helpful? I don't know. What do you do?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Well, first of all, I completely concur with Simone. So this may be depressing, but the supply of agencies outstrips demand like on an order of magnitude that's absolutely fucking frightening. Pardon my French, but I mean it's probably on an order of like 25 to 40 to 50 to 1 in terms of the demand side versus the supply side. So you just got to understand we just don't need any more ad agencies of any kind for a very long time. And so with that in mind, differentiation becomes really important. And the last thing you would do in a highly oversupplied market is say I'm a generalist. Because no one has ever come to me and said, I want a jack of all trades, master of none agency that's kind of, in the middle there, does a little bit of everything, but none of it really all that well. So that doesn't happen. So there is a scary moment. Many of you know I used to own an advertising agency, and many of you, other of you know that I had held jobs as an executive director at Arnold and chairman in Havas. I'm telling you that it was the most difficult thing I ever did in my career to say we really only do these 3 or 4 things. Because of course we did other things, all right? And we always felt like we were leaving something on the table. But now more than ever, you got to leave what you don't do naturally and inherently, you got to leave it on the table. And because you've got to start to identify what you're really good at. The Oprah quote comes to mind, put the best version of yourself out there. And I think that's where Simone was going a minute ago. I mean, this notion that there's white space is absolutely insane, okay? There is just white space. There's not any gray space, okay? So this notion of being the best version of the agency that you are is really, really, really important.
And one thing, if I can add, I think the more you say no, it actually leads you more to your yes. And so if you can be really disciplined in the times that are really tough and say, yeah, I could do that, but I don't really want to do that. But if you can really stand firm with the things that are true to your agency, it's going to show the industry the things that you're really good at and what your strengths are. And it's going to start to attract not just the brands, but the people who want to see those qualities in your agency. And so I know it's hard. I think we've all had those moments where it's Q4, you're trying to meet numbers, and you're like, yeah, I guess we could figure out a way how to do this. But those are the moments that matter the most when you really need to say no, because Q4 no's can result in a lot more yeses for the next year as you continue to crystallize and define who your agency is, what you stand for, and more importantly, what you stand against.
One quick fun anecdote. We'll ask you a question. I have a question for the whole room. I took over, as many of you know, from Dick Roth, from a business called Roth Associates several years ago. Page 2 of the RFI had a list of all the capabilities of an agency. Column 1. Column 2 had, do you handle this with in-house staff? Column 3 was, do you partner to do it? Anybody have any guesses as to why it only lasted twice in the tenure of my owning the firm?
Everyone puts everything.
Yeah. We had 0 responses in which not every box wasn't checked off on the left-hand side. And guys, there weren't like 3 boxes. There were about like 25 boxes. Package design, So we just stopped asking because the answers were so ridiculous.
And just to wrap up real quick, how do you have that conversation with somebody to say, you need to say no to this? Because saying no to money is very hard.
I think it goes back to the investment, and I think it goes back to resources. And you can't, if you're chasing everything, and we all know we have limited resources, then the things that you can win and that are winnable are not going to be the things that you're going to dedicate the full potential of the agency to.
Awesome. Do we have questions, Anne?
Yes, we do.
Woo, woo.
Well, first of all, one's an easy one. It says, are the survey results that you reviewed, Steph, at the beginning, available? And they're going to be on the Event Mobi app. We'll make that, we can talk about that one pie chart that you want to fix. And then if you go to the Event Mobi app under this session, it will be there.
And the Excel data and the PDF data is there because there were some questions that we didn't have enough time to actually have a thoughtful panel discussion. So you can cut the data however you want. Everything's anonymous, so
Yep, it's all
enjoy, have fun.
And then we'll do one more question for Matt. As part of an agency's newsletter to you, that's now once a quarter, should they be willing to let you know about any client losses as well as wins?
Yeah, I mean, particularly if it's a signature client. I think you're much better off. And by the way, once a quarter means nothing really important or demonstrably different happened in between the last 90 days. And if there's real news, then any time is good. It's good for all the consultants, I think, to have the narrative behind your successes and your failures in the market. Sometimes the failures aren't failures. Sometimes it's your client got purchased by another company. Sometimes there's a good backstory. It's very useful for all the consultants in the industry and for me and my team, Russell on the West Coast and the team in New York, to have the narrative on particularly signature clients and signature relationships or signature executives. Those things are good for us to be able to talk about on your behalf.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.